Gentleman is recognized.
You and I share the same goals of a non-nuclear armed Iran. I do not agree, however, that increased sanctions at this time are the right course of action. 10 months of diplomacy by the Obama administration has achieved more than 8 years of bellicose posturing and 15 years of sanctions and 30 years without dialogue. I may be open to a sanctions bill in the future, but at this moment, we need to give diplomacy a chance. And so far, President Obama's efforts have been working. There is finally some progress in dealing with Iran. President Obama's diplomacy has yielded an agreement that increases inspections and verification and reduces Iran's stockpiles of enriched uranium. When Iran met with members of the UN Security Council on October 1st, few were optimistic. But right now, the United Nations inspectors are visiting a uranium-enriched site near Qum, Iran. Previously, the Iranian government would not disclose its location. Right now, the Iranian government is weighing a proposal by the International Atomic Energy Agency to send enriched uranium to Russia and France to be turned into fuel. Diplomacy is an effective means of addressing our issues with Iran. We must not rush this process. This is why the Obama administration has not asked for additional sanctions at this time. In fact, sanctions in Iran have not proven to be effective. First, Iran has bypassed sanctions. Iran has been able to ward off some consequences of sanctions by boosting trade with Russia, China, India, and others. The more we take trade opportunities away from American businesses, the more other nations step into the vacuum. Two, Iranian democracy leaders do not support increased sanctions. Nobel Peace Laureate Shireen Ebadi and dissident Akbar Ganji tell us that sanctions will only hurt the people, especially the working classes in Iran. Even opposition candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi has denounced sanctions, saying that anyone who supports his, quote, green movement should also oppose additional sanctions. According to Mousavi, quote, sanctions would not actually act against the government. Rather, they would only hurt the people. We are opposed to any types of sanctions against our nation. This is what living the green path means, unquote. Increased sanctions may strengthen Iran's Revolutionary Guard. A recent report by the Rand Corporation documented a growing corollary between the power of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, a branch of the military associated with much of Iran's corruption, with sanctions. With inflation in Iran over 20% and with manufacturing in serious decline, sanctions will only lead to higher prices and greater black market trade, which is already controlled by the Revolutionary Guard. Increased sanctions in some are likely to result in Iran going around sanctions, are not supported by democracy leaders, and may strengthen the Revolutionary Guard. Let me be clear, Mr. Chairman, I am appalled by Iran's dismal human rights record. Since the election of President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in 2005, the number of executions has increased fourfold. Many of those executed because they spoke out against Ahmadinejad's government. Gays and lesbians have been rounded up, in some cases executed. Women's rights advocates have been arrested, reportedly raped, beaten, and killed. Religious minorities like the Baha'i live in fear and intimidation. I'm also shocked and appalled that President Ahmadinejad would deny the profound suffering of the Holocaust. All of this is unacceptable. But right now, Congress needs to give President Barack Obama's diplomatic efforts a chance before increasing sanctions. That is why I'm opposed to marking up this bill right now. Diplomacy and efforts toward peace are not naive. In fact, after 30 years of no dialogue, 15 years of economic sanctions, we cannot expect that doing more of the same will yield a more democratic, civil Iranian government. President Barack Obama's efforts are working, and that is why we need to give sanctions a chance. I would like to thank the chairman for his openness and all of his work and the opportunity to speak here today, and I yield back the balance of my time.